Hello there, and welcome to Tarot and Attachment. My name is Erin Smith, and I am going to be doing a week ahead reading for the week of October 14th through the 20th. And as always, I'm going to be consulting the cards, looking for any emergent themes that might be beneficial for us to hold in our awareness as we're moving through the week. So I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to go silent. I'm going to concentrate while I shuffle, and I will be with you momentarily. Okay, I'm just going to say a prayer over these cards. Hmm. Hmm. Beautiful. So I would say that the predominant theme of this poll this week is about noticing the cause and effect nature of life and um, really paying attention to what motivates us to take action and what the ultimate outcome of certain actions might be. That we are being given an opportunity to kind of tap into a higher quality of energy in terms of how we choose to move about the world this week. What I love here, so we have two aces in this poll. And the way that I conceive of ace energy, it is like the highest octave of an element. Uh, it is like getting a divine download from the universe. So you can think of ace energy as being sort of pure insight or an experience that is has a kind of high clarifying quality to it. And in this case, we're dealing with wand energy and cup energy. Let's talk about cups first. Cups represent emotions. They are heartfelt. They have a kind of watery quality to them. That's why we're seeing, and water is a symbolic representation of the emotions, because they flow freely. When we are in our most healthy state of being, we have access to our emotions. We can feel into them, but we're not clinging to them or trying to hold on to one or avoid another. We're allowing them to flow through us. And there's a kind of flexibility that comes along with water energy. When we are emotionally healthy, we are flexible and fluid. We are able to move between states of being without being overly identified with them, without without having the need to be rigidly in control. You can also think of the Ace of Cups as being able to receive this grand influx of compassion and connection to ourselves and to others. So what that might look like is being able to notice how it feels to engage with certain opportunities or certain people in the world. And in noticing, we're able to orient ourselves towards those relationships that feel positive and authentic and connected. And we're also able to notice when we're moving about the world and there's like a strong feeling of warmth or understanding. There's a sense of being drawn towards something. And ultimately, what Spirit is asking us to do is be ready to receive. Be ready to receive this kind of energetic flow that can help us make decisions about where we wish to show up and who we wish to show up with, and how we're going to take real world action. So wand energy is associated with fire, and it is related to creative inspiration, a sense of drive or will that allows us to take action out in the world based on what sets our soul on fire. So I'm sure all of you have had the experience of going on a date with somebody where there isn't a whole lot of connectivity. You don't relate to one another. You don't share the same sort of worldview, or there just isn't that life force energy that is causing there to be a strong attraction. You can think of wand energy as an attractor that gives you this sort of effervescent electric feeling in regards to, what it is that you wish to pursue. Similarly, it's sort of like working a day job, showing up for a paycheck as opposed to pursuing a passion. There's a very different quality of sensation associated with these things. And so we're being asked to feel into, on a heart level, what is most welcoming, most inviting, and inspiring, and to acknowledge when that flow is coming through us, and then to take an action, to orient ourselves in the world from this place of like, I know what's right for me. And I know it because I'm feeling into it, that there's this insight that I'm able to garner because of a kind of self-awareness. So kings represent mastery and maturity. They are an archetypal leader. The king is the one in charge, the one who is governing the land. And ultimately, it's pointing to a sense of volition in our own lives. And again, it's much easier to sort of make decisions based on what we wish to have happen when we're able to identify quite clearly within ourselves what feels right and what is most inspiring. If we can't contact those sensations in our own experience, it can be confusing. It is much more like groping around in the dark. What actions do I take that will yield beneficial results if I'm sort of disconnected or confused about how I feel about something or someone? So ultimately, what Spirit is saying is that this is a great week to really drop in and identify what's going on inside of ourselves so that we can take right action out in the world. And this King of Wands implies that we are in a position to make things happen and to align ourselves with something that is creatively potent. And it may even require taking something of a risk, in which case it is extremely helpful whenever we're going out on a limb or we're uncertain of a specific outcome to have some sense of faith that if we take a risk, that we will be shepherded through that process. And that is really the promise of the Fool. So the Fool is just an acknowledgement that we aren't going to know what the ultimate outcome is of every action that we take in the world. And there are times where we are flying blind, that we have to go on faith. That if I am listening to an inner resource and taking an action, I have to trust that that action is going to land in a certain way and propel me forward. The Fool is actually so connected to Spirit, he trusts that if he steps off the cliff, he will be carried. So with Fool energy, there's a kind of quality of leap and the net will appear. And ultimately, anything that is like has a big payoff, it requires us taking something of a risk, that there is a certain level of uncertainty involved in this, and it requires kind of devoted action. And then finally, here we have the Justice card. Justice is very much about sort of Libra energy and the balancing of the scales. It is the Karma card. So you can think of karma as being a kind of understanding that we live in a cause and effect universe. So when we take a certain action, often there is a certain outcome associated with that action. You know, kind of, and you know, it gets tricky. Obviously, karma is a vastly misunderstood and extraordinarily complex idea. And, you know, I think sort of the Buddhist perspective on karma is that oftentimes when we take an action, it is not necessarily a one-for-one kind of, like, in other words, most people think of karma as like, if you kick the dog will bite you. And if you feed the dog will love you. And to some degree, that is true, that there are often immediate consequences that are reflective of the actions that we take. But the Buddhist teaching on karma is that these cause and effect cycles are playing out over an extensive period of time. I mean, time is even sort of a nebulous idea in the Buddhist pantheon, but ultimately it's just saying that sometimes we take a negative action and we get a positive result. Sometimes we take a negative action and we get a neutral result. Sometimes we take a negative action and we get a negative result. And you know, you can extrapolate that out, right? Sometimes we take a positive action, we get a positive result. Sometimes we take a positive action, we get a negative result. And again, I want to kind of bring us back to the Fool. As we're moving through life and making decisions about the way in which we wish to show up, of course, as human beings, we are looking for beneficial outcomes, right? I want to be able to provide for myself in the world. And ideally, I would love to be able to do that by being involved in a profession that is rewarding to me, that is in alignment with my values. And so I take actions in order to align myself with that. So from a very personal standpoint, I went back to school to get my degree in counseling psychology so that I could be positioned in such a way to have the opportunity to work as a therapist in the world. And that wasn't something that would be like have an immediate outcome, that there was sort of planning and positioning that I needed to do in order to be on the path. And ultimately, I'm in the middle of a process, and don't really know what the ultimate end result is going to be. I'm not even sure there is such a thing because, of course, we are in a constant state of change, right? There is not a beginning, middle, and end to the story until I've drawn my last breath. So when I am feeling into ultimately what I hope the outcome to be, I have to take actions based on faith. If I go to school, then I will get a degree. And if I get the degree, then I will be in a position to get training and experience, and I will be in a position to receive further teachings from, master teachers, and then I will get to share this work with others. And to a large degree, that has been shown to me that that's how things are unfolding. But I have to just keep showing up in faith that it may not be such a definitive outcome. And ultimately, the best way for me to navigate the world is to receive that kind of feeling tone, receive that kind of inspired, connective energy, and then put it into practice and hope that that practice will yield results that pay off. And I think that there's a good reason to believe that that is a possibility. And so we take it on faith. We take the action that feels rightly aligned and trust that that will yield some kind of result at some point that will serve our higher purpose and represent being in our own sense of volition or sovereignty. So I hope that was helpful. It maybe was a little bit convoluted. We're dealing with some kind of abstract concepts in some ways. But ultimately, my suggestion for us this week is to pay attention to the strong feeling tones that are giving us insight into how it is that we wish to move about the world. And have some faith that if you follow through on those insights by taking some action, that we may be in a position to receive the beneficial outcome of that. So that is the message for the week. I hope that was helpful. I wish you many blessings. Take care.